Hey everybody, what's up and welcome back to the Starcraft 2 Own It Shack. It's David here, as always, bringing you another first-person commentary. So, this will be the second episode in my new Balanced Test Map series, and I've decided since the last time I uploaded that from now on, all of my videos will be Balanced Test Map videos. The fact is, I am absolutely loving this Balanced Test mod. It is so fun to play as a Terran, at least. Sorry, I can't speak to the other races. But because of that, it's actually more fun than laddering for me because Mech is so much better here. That means it's a perfect, essentially, playground for me to experiment with these new Mech strategies and create videos on them for you guys to enjoy. I'm really thinking about getting much more involved with the Mech side of things on my channel. In the past, I used to upload quite a few videos. Not all of them were Mech based. I had other series commenting on pro gamer play. Well, I'm not saying I'm not going to do that going forward. I'm just saying I'm going to have a much heavier focus on Mech because it really is so fun on this new Balanced Test Map, and I'm hoping that these changes do end up going through in some kind of similar form to what we see right now. So, with that being said, I would like to preface this video. It is Terran vs. Zerg, and I'm using a new strategy here, similar to the one I used last time, but just quite a little bit more refined. But that being said, there's a lot of work left for me to do to get this strategy to a point where I find that it's optimal enough to create a strategy video on. At this point, I'm not comfortable with it 100% yet, and because of that, I'm going to delay the strategy video, which has the full build order, timings of everything, and more in-depth explanation of why I'm doing certain things. I'm going to delay that till I have a really solid grasp of this, because I want to make that video awesome for you guys, and I really want to make sure I don't sacrifice quality to get a video out sooner rather than later. So, that being said, here we go. This is, as I said, a Terran vs. Zerg, and unfortunately the one downside of the Balanced Test Map is that Terran vs. Zerg, if you're a Terran, this is going to be what you play the most, because there are a lot of Zergs on here, guys. I've played probably about 30 to 40 games on this Balanced Test Map so far. Most of them have been against Zergs. The remaining minority were against Terrans, and I've faced only about 2 Protoss players so far, so very disappointed there. I'd love to play more Protoss. In fact, if you guys are a Protoss at Diamond level or above, I'd be very happy to play with you as well, just to test Mech against Protoss. I haven't had much of a chance to do it yet. I've basically been doing only TvZ and TvT, so definitely still fun to play those matchups, but Terran vs. Protoss is awesome too, so want to get good at all 3 matchups, of course. So the Reaper does end up scouting that he has 3 bases already, and I'm not worried about this. This is very common on this map because it has that gold base, and that, you know, it makes total sense for Zerg to take that base early because it'll allow him to get all of those extra minerals early, and he can actually support that base with queens and not really die to much. And in fact, this is a pretty big map. Although it's skinny, it's quite long, so that means that it takes a very long time to get to his base to apply pressure. Definitely not the best Mech map, but I don't have it vetoed because honestly, guys, I find this map to be beautiful. I just love the artwork on it, and although, you know, you shouldn't necessarily play a map for its artwork, my god, I love it so much I can't stop myself. It's just, I really love these tile sets they're using in these new maps. They're quite stunning, actually. So this is going to be Hellion Banshee play, and always make sure you keep your Reaper alive. That is very important in this matchup, especially, I'd say the Reaper is crucial for this matchup in TVP when you're playing Mech, because as Mech, you are very much in a reactive position in the game. You need to be scouting their tech and adjusting your composition accordingly, or you will die. So that Reaper, what he's doing is he's checking for the lair, and always checking for the lair timing, hive timing, and you want to make sure you check for the tech he's going for, because Mutalisks require a very different response than Roach Ravager or you know, some kind of infestor play. These are all very different strategies that will require you to adjust accordingly as a Mech player. Now the Hellions were meant to get some pressure down, kill a few drones, maybe kill some creep tumors, but you can see I'm not doing too well with it, so I just go ahead and throw down my 2nd and 3rd factory as well as my gases at the expansion, because I realize this is not going to really get too much done. I've also been making a few Banshees here just to try and pressure that creep a little bit more, maybe get some drone kills at his natural expansion, But my Banshee play in this game, in fact my Banshee play in general, leaves quite a bit to be desired. I'm not good at controlling those units, unfortunately, so I'm not going to get too much done here, as you'll see. So more Hellions coming out. I make sure I saturate those gases immediately. That's very important when you're going for mech. You need that gas early because you're going to be building a lot of expensive production facilities. With bio, your production facilities are cheap. It's a barracks that costs 150 minerals. With mech, every production facility costs you an additional 100 gas, and you need that extra little bit of gas with the add-on, of course. And the armories are expensive too. And that means you need that gas a lot earlier here than you normally would. So you can see right there, the Banshee's going to come in and try to snipe this queen. Not really going to do too much, though. He's not really taxed for multitasking right now, so that doesn't really do anything. But I use this as a little opening to get my Reaper into his base to scout the lair again. So here I see the lair, but I don't see any tech buildings, and I almost thought he was like hiding a spire in his mineral line. So I'm clicking all these spore crawlers to see where's his spire, where's his infestation pit, where's something that'll tell me what he's going for, and I don't find it. That's kind of a problem, and you know what? On this particular map, it's a big problem because the bases are absolutely gigantic here. You can see that. There's a lot of space to hide tech buildings, so if you have a Zerg and you've got creep in your base, you can actually throw a Terran for a loop by making sure that your tech buildings are in just a random position in your base. And that seems to be what he's done here, because I did not see anything. So, siege tanks are starting to come out now. Those are probably a little late. This base is going to be floated over. That is definitely late, and I'll tell you why. You see, when I scouted that he had his third base already put up when my Reaper went there, I knew aggression was not likely for at least, you know, the first 5-6 minutes. I could have definitely floated my third base over a lot earlier and taken advantage of those gold minerals. So that was a huge mistake for me, and it's actually going to allow my opponent to take a supply lead if he's playing well. So now that that base is there, I'm going to mule her up. Always good to throw down those mules at your gold base. Just makes sense given that you want to mine that one out as soon as possible because it is the most exposed. And now I'm just going to go ahead here and macro up. I know that with my army as it is right now, I don't really have an opportunity to do much pressure until I've got a few more tanks and maybe a better idea of what he's going for tech-wise. So I'm still scanning it. I'm not seeing anything. That's, you know, I think in retrospect I probably should have just scanned another spot, maybe in the bottom position of his main base, or even maybe his natural, because that would have given me more info. But alas, I did not do so, and so I'm pretty much playing blind here. That's why I go ahead and put turrets up. Now, just in case you guys are in this position like I am here, you're playing Mech as Terran against a Zerg, and you think Mutalisks are coming. You need to make Thors immediately. I know it sounds obvious, but I can't tell you how many times I've lost a game because a random flock of Mutas flies in my base unscouted, and I have no Thors up, and I've only got turrets. That's not what you want. But the problem is, at the same time, the Thors are so bad in every other situation in mid-game that you definitely don't want to make them against anything but Mutas. And there you go. I see that he has Roaches and Ravagers. So now I know I can push out and I'm not going to get killed by Mutas. So I'm going ahead and pushing. No Thors. Again, Thors are useless against a Roach Ravager composition. Very, very bad. Don't make them. Your siege tanks, especially balanced test map siege tanks, are just way, way better. Way more cost efficient. Way better range. And also quite a bit faster. The Thors tend to get stuck behind your army, which is actually significant. It slows down your push and makes your tanks vulnerable in the front. So I go ahead here and just siege up right on his 4th or 5th. I don't even know what order he took these bases, to be honest. But as you can see here, this was a super sloppy push. Now, fortunately, my opponent's defense was equally sloppy and is going to allow me to abuse this a little bit. But this could have gone so... I might have been able to actually end the game here if this push had been a little better. A few things went wrong. I had 2 tanks sieged way in front of the rest. I unsieged my back row all at once. I didn't siege those 2 tanks you see on the screen right there. And as a result, I end up trading... I'd say I gained a little bit of value there, but definitely I should have gotten more. Now, those tanks were very low on health, and they were the only thing left over. And I'm assuming my opponent's good here, so there's no point retreating with them, because he should have some Zerglings or Roaches to hunt those down after the battle. And therefore, I'm just going to siege those up on his I'm going to siege them up on his 5th base and just try to kill that. Unfortunately, his multitasking here wasn't the best, and he actually ends up losing the base to those tanks. Now, another thing, you'll notice I just broke my own rule by making Thors. Now, the reason for that is because I still had no information on what his tech would be, and I really did fear at this point a mass mutalisk transition. A lot of the times what Zergs will do, if they see that your army has no Thors in it when you attack, and then they wipe out that army, what they'll do is they'll just, go ahead and make a ton of mutalisks all at once to try to overwhelm you with air, assuming that you won't remax with any Thors. So to prevent that from happening, I do go ahead and make a few Thors. But better than that is to actually scout what he's doing and react accordingly. So, also during that push, I definitely should have gotten another base. My 4th is severely delayed, and that's actually caused me to be gas blocked here. And never be gas blocked. That 4th should have been built way earlier, floated over during the actual attack, or maybe even before that. And it should be fully saturated right now with an extra 2 gas geysers going. So, didn't end up doing that. I do send a few Hellions out to harass. These units really don't matter. You can pretty much lose every Hellion in your army and it's not going to make a difference once you get a certain number of tanks. In the early game, definitely not true. You need those to block for your tanks. But once you got like 10 tanks, the whole front line of their army dies before it even touches the Hellions. So, there I go, scanning again. I did see the lair there, and I find that it's an Ultralisk Cavern. So, a few words on the Ultralisk Cavern. I like the Ultralisk Cavern a lot in the actual Legacy of the Void Ladder Edition. Here, against Mech, I hate it. I really think, if you're a Zerg player, I'm talking about from the perspective of a Zerg player, I really would be... I wouldn't go Ultras against Mech on this balanced test map. The siege tanks just destroy them. I've faced Ultras quite a few times on here already, and every single time the tanks just obliterate them. They have so much extra damage to those armored units now. Once they're at 3-3, they actually deal 85 damage. That's very few shots to kill one of those things. The chitinous plating doesn't even matter with that much damage. And unless you have Viper support, I'd say the Ultras are worthless. My preference, and what I hate to face as a Terran, is to face Broodlords with Viper support. That's a very tough thing to beat. And second to that, I would say, is the Ultralisk with Viper support. And also, don't walk your army into a siege line like that. That's pretty much lost in the game right there. So, with that being said, I do have a bunch of Thors now in that Punisher cannon, whatever it's called, that mode that demolishes armored units. That's in case of Broodlords. But what you need, actually, in addition to that, is a bunch of starports churning out Vikings. Without that, you're going to have a tough time against the Broodlords, because even though the range of the Broodlord got nerfed to be the same as the Thor, what happens in the actual battle is the Broodlings get in front of your Thors and prevent them from dealing the damage they need to the Broodlord. The Broodlord simply kites the Thor, launches a bunch of Broodlings, gets back, and the siege tanks, meanwhile, all the time, unless you unsiege them, are dealing huge splash damage to the Thors. So, that's a composition that's difficult to deal with as a Mech player, and it's what I'd strongly advise you Zergs to go for if you're facing a style like this. And if you have the Vipers to go along with it, my goodness, that's a very difficult thing to deal with. You're going to have to then get Ghosts as a Terran in order to EMP those, otherwise not going to go too well for you when your whole army gets blinded. So, you can see here, I'm scanning to see where his army is, and because he's out of position, that's going to allow me to siege up right over here, and this is a bad spot for him to engage. That's a choke point, and you definitely don't want to do that against balanced test siege tanks. These will pretty much deny any sort of aggression at this point. He might have been better off just simply going for the base straight here, to be honest, but he does try to push in here. He has one lone Ultralisk, or maybe two, I can't remember. But anyway, this doesn't work at all for him. I've got too good a position here, and I'm remaxing again at the same time to replace what I've lost. And that's going to pretty much allow me to win the game uncontested here. So, definitely wasn't a perfect game from me, but at diamond level play, never going to be a perfect game from your opponent either. So in the end, I made fewer mistakes here, and that did allow me to punish my Zerg opponent, and he recognizes that and leaves the game. So A cool little mech game here for you guys. I'm definitely going to try to get some Protoss ones as well, but in the meantime, I hope you enjoy these TvZs. I certainly enjoyed making them. If you have any feedback for me or suggestions as to what you'd like to see covered here, please leave a comment and let me know. And until next time, thanks for watching, and keep owning.